start your DIY pillows, you're going to need muslin or just any cheap fabric just to keep the pillow shape. Then we're making covers to go over them. So I just have this fabric here, and I'm starting off by cutting out my small head pillow, and it's going to be 20 inches by 15 inches. Now, I don't show you cutting and making the body pillow just because everything I'm doing with my small head pillow, you do the same with the body pillow except you make it in a bigger size. But on my blog, I will have the measurements for the big body pillow. So, if you cut it in a certain way where you're not cutting away the folded edge, you will be able to sew less. So just cut the 20 by 15 inches, but don't cut away the folded edge. So that way you just have to sew the 2 sides instead of 3 sides initially. So then for your long round pillow, you want to cut it out to be 31 inches by 14.5 inches. And these were really fun to make. They did take a little longer than I expected, but they were super fun to make. So just cut that fabric out, and again, make sure you don't cut away the folded edge so you have less sewing to do. So I cut this one pretty skew, but that was fine in the end. Okay, so now we need to make these circle ends. So what you want to do is take your fabric and fold it in half like so, and then at the end of the fabric you want to fold that over just a little ways, just like that. So if you fold it like that, then you're going to take your little measuring tape and you want to measure it 5.5 inches by 5.5 inches. So go 5.5 inches long and then 5.5 inches up, and just mark it. And then we're going to be cutting the fabric at those 2 marks, but when you get to the top mark, you're going to slightly curve your scissors, or not slightly, you're going to curve them and then cut straight, just like this. Now if you fold the fabric like shown, then you're going to end up with 2 pieces that are semicircular. They ended up being a little more oval than circle, but that was fine. So I have 2 pieces here, and that's the circle end, so we're good to go. Now we're going to start the sewing. So for my small little head pillow, you're going to sew 2 ends, so you just have 1 end that isn't sewn so we can put the stuffing in. So I'm going to sew the long end and then the bottom end, and then the 1 end I keep open. Now, if you did cut the fabric where you didn't cut away the folded end, then you only have to sew those 2 sides. But if you did cut away the folded end, then you're going to need to sew both long ends and 1 bottom. Then for your round pillow, you only want to sew the long end. And you don't want to sew the 2 ends because after we sew the long end, we're going to be taking our circle ends, pinning them, stuffing it, and then sewing it. So for my small head pillow, I am just sewing the bottom end and then the long end, keeping the 1 end open, and that's where I'm going to be ending up stuffing it. So make sure to back stitch when you start and end your project, just to make sure that the ends are nice and strong and they're not going to break. So just sew that, and these are really easy to make. And then once you've sewn that and it's all strong and good to go, you want to flip it the right side around so you don't see any sewing. And also make sure at the little corners just to get all of the fabric right, like that. Now for my stuffing, I'm using this polyfill stuffing, and any stuffing will do. I chose this one because it's nice and cushy and it just worked really well. Some of these stuffings are a little more dense, but this one wasn't. So the way they recommend stuffing it is taking little pieces and then putting it in your pillow and then breaking it apart. So the reason you want to break it apart is just because it's a little fluffier and not so dense. Now you can stuff this a lot to where it is a fairly dense pillow, but I kept mine not so dense because I wanted it to be nice and fluffy. Now the stuffing did come with this stuffing stick, which I did use just in the corners to make sure I got the stuffing nicely in the corners. So once it's stuffed to your liking, then you want to take the ends and fold it over and then pin it just like that. And then you're going to sew that end just with your sewing machine. It's a little tricky to sew it with the big fat pillow and the stuffing in the way, but it is doable. And then once you've sewn it, just kind of try and move the stuffing into the corners where we just sewed. And then once you've done that, this pillow is complete. Or not the cover, but the actual pillow is done. So then for your long round pillow, you're just going to sew the long end. Don't sew the 2 bottom and top ends. And make sure that's nice and secure. And then you're going to take your round end, and what you're going to do is because I cut my round ends a little too big, I had to fold all around on the circle end just a little bit. So as you can see, I just fold it over like that. So it's just a small fold. Don't take too much in because otherwise it won't fit on your pillow. But just take a small bit in each time you pin it onto your ends of your pillows. So I just did that, and just take a little bit in. And then once you've done that, you'll be able to see how much you take in, and it'll fit on your pillow nicely. If you take in too much, it'll be too small, but if you take in too little, it'll be too big. But you'll see how much you need to take in for each piece. Then you're going to sew one end on fully, and then the second one you're doing, don't sew it on completely. You just want to sew most of the way, but you want to leave a little part so we can unpin it and put the stuffing in and then resew it. Then because I made it too big, what I did, I pinched the middle, and then I folded that piece over, and then I folded it in the center again, and then I just sew the very end of that. You don't have to do this. I did it because mine was too big and I wanted to take it in, and this technique worked really well. So you just pinch it in the middle, fold it over just a little ways, about an inch, and then fold it over, and then just sew the very end of that part. So you can see it just takes the pillow in. Then you want to stuff this pillow as well, like I used with the same other one, and just do the same technique. And then once it's fully stuffed, with this one, you can't use the sewing machine to sew it. So what you have to do is do the same little folding technique so the circle end fits on the pillow nicely, and then just pin it down onto the other end. Then what you're going to do, you're going to have to hand sew it. I didn't really want to, but you can't do it with the sewing machine. So then what you want to do is take your thread and make a knot at the end, and then stick it in through the needle, and then you're just going to hand sew the part that we weren't able to sew with the sewing machine because we had to put the stuffing in. So hand sewing that didn't take too long, and you don't see it because you have a cover over it, so don't worry about seeing the sewing. So just hand sew it, and then the long round pillow is complete. So now we need to get on to making the covers for these pillows. So for my small head pillow, you want to do it 22 inches by 27 inches. So the length is 27 inches and then the width is 22 inches. Now the two ends, you want to make sure to hem them. Now for me, what I did, because my fabric was 22 inches, that's how big my fabric was folded over. I didn't have to cut it, so I didn't have to double hem it because the ends weren't fraying. I only hemmed it over once. But if your fabric was bigger than 22 inches in width, you're going to have to double hem it so you don't see any frayed ends. Then what you want to do with the print side facing you want to take your ends that we just finished hemming, and you want to fold it over the center of the fabric just a little bit, not a lot. So where you saw that little fold, like the line in the fabric, I took my ends over just a little bit, and then the other end just a little over the other end. And then you're going to sew the two ends where I just showed you, just like that, and don't sew the middle, you're just sewing the two ends. And then what you want to do is flip it the right side around, and then you're going to measure 2 inches on each side, because we're going to make a little frilly end. So all you have to do is measure 2 inches all around in a border, and then what you're going to do is sew those 2 inches all the way around, and you're just going to pin it so you know where to sew, because you don't want to take in too much or too little, otherwise it's going to be too big or too small for your pillow. So then with the fabric facing the right side, you're just going to sew the 2 inches up all the way around, and there, as you can see here, what happened, because we didn't sew the full end, because you need to get your pillow in, what you want to do is go up to the end and then turn your sewing machine around and go up, turn it around and go just a small way, and then go back down, just like this. And then when you get down, you just want to turn it the right way, back stitch, and then go straight again. This seems a bit tricky, but it really isn't. When you make the pillow cover, you'll see what I mean. Okay, so this part's a little tricky, but it is necessary to keep your pillow in properly. So flip the fabric so you have the wrong side facing you, and then the two ends that are open, you want to go about a third of the way down on each side and pin it there, and then you're going to sew up. Now make sure you're only sewing this part and there's no fabric underneath it like the rest of your pillowcase. You just want to sew this part. The reason we're doing this is because it keeps the pillow in nicely, and at the end where you start, make sure to back stitch really well so when you put the pillow in, it doesn't rip. So as you can see, I did that on both ends, and now you can get the pillow in and it won't flap around in the back. As you can see, the pillow, it goes nicely. Now for the body pillow, it didn't cover my pillow's back very well, so what I had to do is create a little buttonhole and put some buttons on. So create a little slit for your buttonhole, and then take your button, and I'm just using these flower ones, which are really cute. Take your button and make sure it fits through the hole. If it doesn't, make it a little bigger. Don't make it too big though, so the button doesn't just slip off. Make it the right size so it fits in and fits out. Now I'm just taking this no fray stuff just because I don't have the time to sew it, and this stuff actually worked really well. And then I just used a little card to make sure it gets on the ends nicely and I didn't have extra. And then take your button and sew it on so it's in line with the buttonhole and it buttons nicely. And as you can see, once the glue's dried, it really did the job. And you don't even see that you didn't sew it once the buttons are buttoned. So you might need to do this for the body pillow and your small head pillow if the back flaps open. I only had to do it for my body pillow though. Okay, so for now, the long round pillow's cover, you want to cut it 32 by 19 inches. So then what you want to do, each end, it's basically the same thing as the small head pillow. You want to make sure to hem the ends. I had to double hem this one because I didn't keep the ends. So just double hem it like that and hem those two ends like that. Then what you want to do is take your round pillow and take your cover and cover it over your pillow. And the two pieces are going to overlap, and that is perfectly fine. That's what you want. And then you're just going to pin about, again, a third of the way down on each end, and then you're going to sew those two pieces, and that's just going to keep the pillow in nicely. And then just take your pillow out and you're going to sew those two ends. So you're just going to sew those and just go down about a third of the way, and as you can see, it's sewed in there. And then because I did cut mine a little bigger, I have a piece that's kind of flapped open like that. And what you want to do, I'm just going to sew that down. And you're only sewing it down as far as you went, about a third of the way on the other side. So don't go any further. So I'm just sewing that down so it doesn't flap all everywhere, and just backstitch at the end. And as you can see, then it's down nicely, and you can put your pillow in through the center. Now take your pink fabric or whatever fabric you're doing for the circle ends, and again you are just going to fold it over like I showed you. So fold it in half and then fold it just a little ways, and then you're going to cut this 4 inches by 4 inches when it's folded like this, and just mark it. So I cut a little piece and then I'm going up where the pin is, and then I'm curving it and going straight. So these are the circle ends for your cover. Then what you want to do, because I made them slightly smaller, this part is so tricky, but I did end up making it work. So at each corner of the little circle end, you're going to fold the actual cover, not the circle ends, the actual cover, and fold it over just a little bit. And so you're doing that basically 4 times all around, and then the rest of it you're just putting it flat on and pinning it. Now I actually ended up only doing it 3 times because I folded too much at the other corners, but I don't even see it. And then you're just going to sew that all the way around, and you can sew it fully on each end because we have the little opening to put the pillow in. So once you've done that, just flip it the other way around and then put your pillow in, and then that is the cover for the circle pillow done. And that is all of it done. So I hope this video helped you guys if you're trying to make pillows. I hope it is understandable, and I will try and put clear instructions on my blog. And thank you guys so much for watching, and you can follow me on Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, and Twitter. Thanks so much for watching. Bye guys.